It is the kind of game that we expect out of these two programs from the Big Ten and from the SEC. A slug it out, low scoring matchup of the defense and run blocking and just hard hitting football and tough, gritty football. Not necessarily the result that we expected. MarkRogersTV and SEC breakdown, breaking down LSU and Wisconsin. The Badgers pull out a 16-14 victory at Lambeau Field, and this was a slugfest. Not pretty, but a slugfest and a exciting football game. Wisconsin dominated, especially in the first quarter, on the offensive and defensive lines and stopping Leonard Fournette. Defensively, the front seven for Wisconsin, traditionally strong. It is again this season with TJ Watt and others leading the way. Wisconsin outgained LSU out of the gate 120-7. And Leonard Fournette not picking up much yardage, obviously. Wisconsin continuing to tap into the red zone of LSU, but Bart Houston was picked off in the end zone. That was a horrible throw and a horrible decision. That was his primary target in the right corner of the end zone, but he underthrew the football. Shouldn't have gone in that direction. Three defenders around the receiver. And that was a turnover in favor of LSU. Also, Wisconsin getting into the red zone in the first quarter and going for it on fourth and a long half yard. And LSU's defense was up to the challenge. So Wisconsin comes up empty despite dominating early. And we had no score for quite some time. Wisconsin did tack on 2 field goals in the first half to make it 6-0. Fournette got on track to a certain extent, but still only had about 40 yards rushing at the break. To start the second half, Wisconsin comes out. They put together a nice drive, mixed the run in the pass with Corey Clement, not having a great game, and he came in extremely frustrated and willing and ready to prove a point with all the talk about Leonard Fournette. Clement came out. You're not going to run for big yardage against the LSU defense, but he ran for just enough to keep the defense honest and off of Bart Houston. Clement, 21 carries, 86 yards, 4.1 per carry. Fine effort against what's an NFL defensive front in that front seven for the LSU Tigers. Of course, Brandon Harris threw the ball relatively well on the opening drive for LSU in the second half as the Badgers took a 13-0 lead. They had all the momentum. Everything went well. They didn't turn the ball over except for the Houston interception in the end zone, 13-0. But then on a 3rd and long in its own territory, Bart Houston telegraphed a pass toward Tre'Davious White on the left sideline. He made some remarkable moves to take it all the way to the house, 13-7. LSU came back after another defensive stop of Wisconsin in a turnover, actually, on a pass reception along the right sideline that was stripped away, and LSU got the football back inside the 40-yard line and turned that into a touchdown with Brandon Harris connecting for the touchdown pass. So suddenly it goes from Wisconsin dominating the game but not being able to cash in to LSU in 2 possessions and just a couple minutes, making it a 14-13 lead. So this had much the feel of the game 2 years ago in Houston when Wisconsin dominated at the line of scrimmage, but LSU, with the flurry of athletic plays, was able to turn the tide in a 24-7 deficit into a victory. What would happen here? Well, Wisconsin was shaky on offense, and it looked like LSU would have its way at that point at, again, 14-13. But Wisconsin got some offense going there, and in particular with about 8 minutes left, Wisconsin stopped LSU, got the football back. Troy Fumagalli was key in this game. 7 receptions for 100 yards and barreled over some LSU defenders repeatedly downfield, and really Wisconsin's most effective passing attack in this game was flanking out the fullbacks and also the tight ends into the flat for the 6- and 8-yard receptions off to the sideline on the out plays. That's what turned out to be the most effective Wisconsin passing, as Bart Houston looked mighty shaky most of the game, but he came through with a big connection on the final drive of the game, and despite a penalty for a hold that set it back to 1st and 20. Wisconsin completed the drive, and Houston made the plays. He finished 19 of 31 for 205, the 2 interceptions. But Rafael Gaglione made the 47-yard field goal, his 3rd field goal of the day. He hit one from 48, one from 47 to make it 16-14. And Wisconsin was in decent shape, but LSU still had the ball. They moved it out to midfield, and Brandon Harris eluded the rush. TJ Watt once again getting into the backfield quickly. Brandon Harris hurries the throw, threw it to basically no one except for Evan Bondac, a walk-on from Madison, Wisconsin. His first career interception for the Badgers was huge. And what happened after that didn't decide the football game, because Wisconsin had it at that point at less than 50 seconds to go in the game. But Bondac got up. He'd fallen to the ground on the interception, so the play was dead. He got up and was just crushed by Josh Boutte, the guard out of Iberia, Louisiana, number 76. So he was thrown out of the game, and Wisconsin just had to run out the clock. We'll see if there are further disciplinary actions going to be unveiled in the coming days against the LSU guard. My first thought was he didn't know what was going on. He was shielded from the play by a number of Wisconsin players. Bondac got up so quickly from being down that it looked like he was running with the football. After I saw the replay several times, I'm doubting if that was the case. I think he was just frustrated and mad because a team that many have predicted to go to the college football playoff, number 5 in the country coming into this season, now has a loss. And LSU, of course, can still reach the college football playoff, still play in what's considered the best conference in college football. More on that to come, I'm sure. We'll talk about that in the coming days, in the coming weeks, because not a great day thus far for the SEC. But LSU will have time and game action to make amends for this loss. But for right now, Wisconsin wins. They dominated the line of scrimmage for much of the game, not the entire game. I don't want to overplay the dominance by Wisconsin, but they could have salted away this game earlier by cashing in on some opportunities and not making all the mistakes that they did. A lot of dropped passes, and this is a typical Wisconsin team, and I say this all the time. Top 15 program that could be even better, but they typically, and do again this season, have a marginal quarterback, nobody that scares you at wide receiver, and shaky play to marginal play in the defensive secondary against the pass. What they have is usually a great offensive line that they didn't have last year because of inexperience and injury, but typically a great offensive line, a great running back, an excellent tight end, and a front 7 on defense. That's what Wisconsin typically has, and that's what we saw the formula in this game at Lambeau Field in the 16-14 upset. What I don't want to see this week is LSU ranked ahead of Wisconsin. And I'm just guessing that LSU is still going to be ranked ahead of Wisconsin, even though the two teams played one game. It's the only game of the season, and Wisconsin won fair and square. That said, would love to hear from you on college football in general. Of course, this game, LSU, Wisconsin, and all sorts of action to come on this Saturday night right here on Mark Rogers TV.